in the woven tapestry of Umuagu's traditions, where the whispers of ancestors shaped the lives of its people. The bias towards sons over daughters was unmistakable. Nkiruka, married and a mother of 3 daughters, Adaobi, Oluchi, and Ifeoma, felt the weight of societal disappointment daily. Her husband's family seldom hid their discontent, lamenting the absence of a male heir. Adais, married to Nkiruka's husband's younger brother, was the proud mother of 3 sons. She held her head high, her status elevated by her son's mere existence. Adai's pride bordered on arrogance, and she often made dismissive comments about Nkiruka's misfortune, reinforcing the preferential treatment towards male offspring. Adai's pride swelled with each passing day, her posture as rigid as the traditions she upheld. She adorned herself and her sons in the finest garments, their appearances a stark contrast to Nkiruka's modest attire and the simple dresses of her daughters. Adai's arrogance permeated the very air she breathed, visible in her dismissive glances and snide remarks directed at Nkiruka whenever the village gathered at the market or the community well. "Ah, Nkiruka," Adais would often say, loudly enough for others to hear. "Still no sons to carry on the family name? A pity indeed." Her words, like daggers, were meant to wound, and they often did, leaving Nkiruka to console her daughters, who struggled to understand why their births were a source of disdain rather than celebration. Adaize's husband, Obina, took cues from his wife's demeanor, his own sense of entitlement growing with their son's increasing age. He frequently cornered his elder brother, Chike, Nkiruka's husband, at their family gatherings, pressing him with unsolicited advice masked as concern. "Chik, you're no longer young, and these are critical times," Obina would insist, his voice a blend of faint sympathy and underlying accusation. "You need sons, my brother, sons who will inherit and lead. It's not too late to make a wise choice. Send Nkiruka away and find a woman who can give you what you truly need." Yet, Chik's love for his wife and daughters was as deep as the roots of the ancient Iroko tree that stood at the center of Umuagu. He saw the sparkle of his ancestors in Adaobi's laughter, the wisdom of ages in Oluchi's thoughtful gaze, and the spirit of the motherland in Ifeoma's vibrant dances. Each time Obina broached the subject, Chike responded with unwavering conviction. "Obina, my family is complete and my heart is full. My daughters will be my legacy, and Nkiruka my eternal companion. We will forge new paths for our lineage, paths paved with love and respect, not merely tradition." Despite Chik's firm stance, the pressure from Obina and Adaize never waned. They concocted subtle schemes to undermine Nkiruka's position, spreading rumors, orchestrating public shaming, and even manipulating communal resources to favor households with sons. Yet, through every trial, Chik stood by his family, his support unwavering, a shield against the relentless storm of cultural prejudice. To shield his family from the continuous disdain and sabotage by his brother Obina and sister-in-law Adaize, Chike made a decisive move. He relocated his family to Lagos State, seeking peace and the opportunity to thrive away from the stifling traditions of Umuagu. Lagos offered them a fresh start, and Chike, with his keen business acumen, quickly established himself as a prominent trader. In no time, Chike became a wealthy merchant, owning numerous houses and luxury cars. He ran several successful shops in bustling markets like Ladigbo and Alaba, dealing in electronics and motor parts. And Kiruka, too, flourished in this new environment. She opened a large store in a prime location where she sold imported wrappers, lace, George, shoes, and handbags. The community in Lagos respected and admired their family, treating Nkiruka and her daughters with the deference and kindness that had been so scarce in Umuogu, Adaobi, Oluchi, and Ifeoma attended prestigious private schools and were known for their intelligence and grace. Life seemed perfect, a stark contrast to their past, until tragedy struck. One fateful day, as Chike was on his way to Apapa seashore to receive a container consignment, a horrific accident occurred. His vehicle was crushed under a swerving truck, and Chike was killed instantly after Chike's untimely demise. The news quickly rippled back to their village, igniting a flurry of activity. Obinna and his wife Adaeze traveled to Lagos to take stock of all late Chike's properties and businesses. With meticulous detail, they noted every asset, from the thriving electronic shops in the Ladigbo and Alaba markets to the luxurious family home. Returning to the village armed with this information, they began crafting a plan to seize everything from Nkiruka. Chike was laid to rest in a solemn ceremony on one of his own properties in the village, an event that marked the beginning of further hardships for Nkiruka. Not long after the burial, Obinna called an Umona's meeting, a gathering of male relatives and elders. With a tone of finality, he declared, "Now that my brother has passed, all that belonged to him rightfully falls to me. Since Nkiruka bore no sons, only daughters who hold no claim, she must vacate my brother's house." The Umuna, bound by tradition and swayed by Obinna's influential position, agreed. Nkiruka and her daughters were forcibly evicted from their home in Lagos. Every property, every business Chike had painstakingly built was stripped from them. Even Nkiruka's bustling store, once a symbol of her independence and success, was taken over by Adaeze, who relished her new role with cruel satisfaction. Left penniless and destitute, Nkiruka and her daughters faced the harsh realities of their new existence. Adaeze and her sons moved into the Lagos properties, claiming the life that once belonged to Nkiruka and her family. Yet, despite the profound losses and the bleak outlook, Nkiruka's spirit, though battered, was not broken. Her love for her daughters and the memories of Chike's enduring faith in them fueled her resolve. With everything taken from them, Nkiruka and her daughters faced a future full of uncertainties. They were left without the comfort and security once provided by Chike's success. Evicted from their home and stripped of their businesses, they found themselves grappling with a new reality marked by hardship. Nkiruka, determined to provide for her daughters, found work wherever she could, from cleaning in market stalls to selling vegetables on the streets of Lagos. She embraced each day with unwavering determination. The memories of Chike's love and the vision he had for their daughters fueled her through each exhausting day. Adaobi, Oluchi, and Ifeoma, deeply affected by their father's death and the subsequent upheaval, adapted to their new life with resilience taught by their mother's example. They attended public schools where they excelled despite the challenges, their academic prowess often shining as a beacon of hope for Nkiruka. Nkiruka's small family found a new sense of community and support among the people of Lagos. Neighbors who admired Nkiruka's steadfastness often lent helping hands, and her daughters were embraced by teachers and peers alike. The days following their eviction were marred by struggle and humiliation. Nkiruka, with her daughters in tow, took to hawking basic necessities on the dusty streets of Lagos to make ends meet. The young girls, balancing heavy trays on their small heads, would walk alongside their mother from dawn till dusk, their feet weary from the endless trek, as if their hardship was not enough. Adaeze, her husband Obinna, and their children often crossed paths with Nkiruka and her daughters. These encounters were cruel twists of fate, bringing with them a torrent of mockery and disdain. Adaeze's children, mimicking the contempt shown by their parents, would sneer at the sisters, their words sharp and malicious. Look at the useless daughters of a useless mother, they would taunt, their voices loud enough to draw the attention of passers-by. Why don't you all just disappear? You're nothing but burdens. These barbs were especially painful when they came from children not much older than Nkiruka's own daughters, teaching them early the harshness of their reality. The mockery didn't end with verbal jabs. On days when Nkiruka and her daughters walked past their former possessions, now branded with Adaeze's touch, the scorn deepened. Why waste your time at that public school? Adaeze would scoff when she saw them in their worn school uniforms, a stark contrast to the pristine outfits of her sons. No amount of education will change your fate, just destined to be playthings for men, as useless as your mother. These cruel taunts stung, but Nkiruka used them as fuel to instill resilience in her daughters. Each night, under the dim light of their small room, she would wipe away their tears, bandage their tired feet, and weave stories of women from history who rose from despair to greatness. She taught them that their worth was not defined by the words of those who despise them, but by their courage, intellect, and kindness, despite the daily degradation. Nkiruka's resolve never wavered. She continued to push her daughters to pursue their education, believing firmly that knowledge was their passport to a better life, a life far removed from the scorn of Adaeze and her family. Slowly, Kiruka saved enough from their hawking to start a small business from their home, sewing and repairing clothes for neighbors. As the girls grew, they internalized their mother's lessons of resilience and hope. They excelled in their studies, each one determined to carve a path that would lead them far from the derision they once endured. Their success at school became a testament to their determination, a silent rebuke to those who had mocked their aspirations. This period of their lives, though filled with hardship, was also a time of bonding and growth. The trials they faced together forged an unbreakable bond between them, one that was built on shared pain, shared dreams, and an unyielding hope for the future. Despite the relentless challenges and the scorn they faced, Nkiruka's daughters, Adaobi, Oluchi, and Ifeoma, continued to excel in their studies. Their brilliance did not go unnoticed, and soon their school recognized their potential, selecting them to represent the institution in prestigious competitions across Lagos. Adaobi, the eldest, with a keen mind for numbers, was chosen for the mathematics competition. Her ability to solve complex problems with ease and grace made her a standout participant. Oluchi, with a love for words and exceptional memory, entered the spelling bee, dazzling the judges with her precision and poise. The youngest, Ifeoma, showed a remarkable talent for public speaking and was selected for the debate competition, where she articulated her points with confidence and clarity. The trio embarked on their respective journeys with determination, each fueled by the desire to make their mother proud and to prove to the world that their worth was defined by their capabilities, not their circumstances. They competed with students from all over Lagos, their intellect and hard work shining through each round of competition. To the surprise of many, but the expectation of their mother, Adaobi, Oluchi, and Ifeoma won their respective competitions not only at the city level but also went on to claim victories at the national level in Nigeria. Their success didn't stop there. They represented Nigeria in Pan-African competitions, and their prowess earned them accolades across the continent. Their remarkable achievements culminated in global competitions, where they faced off against some of the brightest young minds from around the world. Against all odds and with the world watching, they each won in their categories, bringing honor not only to themselves and their school, but also to their nation. The global recognition of their talents was a moment of profound vindication and joy for Nkiruka. The international community, moved by their stories of resilience and brilliance, offered Adaobi, Oluchi, and Ifeoma full scholarships to prestigious universities, where they could continue their education and development. As they prepared for their journey to university, the sisters reflected on the hardships they had endured and the triumphs they had achieved. Their victories were not just personal, they were a testament to their mother's unwavering belief in their potential and the power of education. Nkiruka, watching her daughters pack for university, knew that the darkest days were behind them. The community that had once looked upon them with pity now regarded them with respect and admiration. The taunts and jeers they once faced were drowned out by the accolades and commendations from around the world. As they stepped into this new chapter of their lives, Nkiruka felt a profound sense of peace. Her daughters were not only survivors, they were champions, scholars, and beacons of hope for every young girl who dared to dream big, regardless of their beginnings. The triumphs of Adaobi, Oluchi, and Ifeoma at the global competitions not only brought them international acclaim, but also opened doors to opportunities that Nkiruka had only dreamed of for her daughters. Each received a full scholarship to continue their education abroad, in fields that aligned perfectly with their passions and skills. Adaobi, the eldest, whose prowess in mathematics had already taken her far beyond the boundaries of Lagos, was awarded a scholarship to study artificial intelligence and robotics at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, MIT, in the USA. Her fascination with technology and its potential to transform societies fueled her ambition to be at the forefront of technological innovation. Oluchi, whose mastery of words and keen analytical skills shone through in the spelling competitions, chose to pursue a degree in international law at the University of Oxford in the UK, inspired by the injustices they had faced. She was determined to learn the skills necessary to advocate for human rights and ensure that the law protected the vulnerable. The youngest, Ifeoma, known for her articulate speech and persuasive prowess, embraced a different path. With a compassionate heart and a keen interest in biology, she accepted a scholarship to study medicine at Stanford University in the USA. Driven by a desire to heal and improve the health of communities, especially those underserved and overlooked, as they embarked on their journeys to different corners of the globe, Adaobi, Oluchi, and Ifeoma carried with them the lessons of resilience, hard work, and the importance of education that their mother had instilled in them. Nkiruka watched her daughters live, feeling a mix of immense pride and a touch of sorrow at their departure. She knew they were going not just to build better lives for themselves, but also to make a difference in the world. Enjoying this story? Subscribe for more and hit the like button to support our channel. After Adaobi, Oluchi, and Ifeoma left for their scholarships, life in Lagos continued for Nkiruka, marked by both challenges and triumphs. One day, as she walked along the dusty roadside, returning from the market, she encountered Obina and Adaeze, driving with their sons in what used to be Chike's car. As they passed, they deliberately swerved close to the curb, splashing murky water all over Nkiruka. Their laughter echoed behind them as Adaeze shouted out the window, "Where are those your useless daughters? Have you sold them off for prostitution yet? That's all you're good for." Despite their cruel words and mocking laughter, Nkiruka felt an unfamiliar sense of detachment. Their taunts no longer wounded her as they once might have. She knew the truth of her daughter's success and the honorable lives they led, fulfilling the dreams she and Chike had harbored for them. Brushing off the mud, Nkiruka smiled to herself and continued her walk, her spirit buoyed by the pride in her daughters who were making a difference in the world. As Nkiruka's reputation for unique and quality tailoring grew within Lagos, her client base expanded. Among her clients was Mrs. Adiola, a woman of influence and taste, who appreciated Nkiruka's meticulous craftsmanship. Impressed by Nkiruka's blend of traditional and contemporary designs, Mrs. Adiola introduced her to Mr. Frederick Houghton, a British entrepreneur looking for a unique cultural fusion in fashion to introduce to European markets. Mr. Houghton was captivated by Nkiruka's designs, which perfectly encapsulated the vibrant essence of African culture with a tasteful blend of Western elegance. He commissioned her to create a line for an upcoming international fashion show in London. Nkiruka worked tirelessly, pouring her creativity and skill into each piece, crafting designs that told a story of resilience and beauty. The fashion show was a resounding success, and Nkiruka's designs received acclaim for their innovation and depth of culture. Orders began to flood in, not just from Mr. Houghton, but from other fashion houses across Europe, interested in her unique perspective. Her business flourished, bringing her financial stability and recognition far beyond the borders of Nigeria. With her success, Nkiruka was able to employ and train other local women, imparting skills that could help them build their own futures. Her shop became a center of community and empowerment in Lagos, a place where women learned not only tailoring, but also the value of education and self-respect. Years later, when Adaobi, Oluchi, and Ifeoma returned to Lagos to visit, they found not the struggling tailor shop of their childhood, but a thriving boutique and training center. Nkiruka's business had transformed into a beacon of hope and opportunity for many. Her daughters were proud, seeing the tangible impact of their mother's work on the community. Together, they launched a foundation to fund scholarships for young girls in Nigeria, dedicated to providing opportunities for education in STEM, law, and environmental science, ensuring that other young women could pursue their dreams just as they had, while Nkiruka and her daughters carved out legacies of success and empowerment. Adaze's family followed a markedly different path. Adaze and Obina, still basking in the wealth they had seized from Chike, continued to lead a life marked by opulence and disregard for the true cost of their lifestyle. Their sons, raised in an environment where entitlement and gender superiority were fostered, saw education and hard work as unnecessary burdens, despite their poor performance in school. Obinna paid large sums to secure university admissions for his sons after multiple failures in their entrance exams. The oldest son, Uche, entered university alongside his younger brother, Emeka, after failing his exams 3 times, while the youngest, Chidi, followed 2 years later after his own struggles with the entrance test in university. The brothers' disregard for their studies and focus on frivolous pursuits led to dire consequences. Uche, ever confident in his supposed invincibility, pursued a relationship with a girl who was already in a relationship with a local gang leader. This reckless decision sparked a violent retaliation. One fateful day, as he approached the university gates, Uche was ambushed and shot by members of the gang. He was rushed to the hospital but succumbed to his injuries, leaving his family and the university community in shock. Following Uche's death, Emeka and Chidi's behavior grew increasingly erratic. Their academic performance, already dismal, plummeted further until the university administration could no longer overlook their misconduct. Both were eventually rusticated for their continued neglect of studies and disruptive behavior. Returning to their parents' home, the house that once belonged to Chike, Emeka and Chidi became even more burdensome. They demanded money as if it were their due, squandering it on lavish parties and numerous fleeting relationships. The house echoed with the chaos of their indulgences, a stark contrast to its past as a home filled with love and aspirations. The brothers began to sell off the cars and other valuables to fund their extravagant lifestyles, stealing significant amounts from their parents, Obinna and Adaize, despite witnessing the direct results of their parenting, continued to enable their sons, blinded by their own arrogance and the distorted belief in their familial superiority. The unchecked behavior of Emeka and Chidi eventually spiraled into greater troubles. Their actions attracted the attention of local authorities when a night of excess ended in a public disturbance and property damage. Facing legal charges, Obinna was forced to intervene, using the last of his resources to extricate his sons from legal repercussions. The family, once living in unearned wealth and luxury, found themselves cornered by the consequences of their actions. The financial strain and continuous legal issues began to fracture the family, with Adaize and Obinna facing the harsh reality of their failures, not only as parents, but as moral guides for their children. As the fortunes of Adaize and Obinna began to dwindle under the weight of their unsustainable lifestyle, they were hit with a new, unexpected challenge. Oluchi, now a seasoned and influential lawyer, filed a comprehensive lawsuit against them to recover all properties and assets wrongfully taken from a family following her father's death. When Obinna received the legal notice, he initially scoffed at the idea. To him, the daughters of Onkiruka were still the useless girls he remembered. Unable to challenge his authority, laughing derisively, he shouted, "Aru, over my dead body will I let a mere woman, especially one of Nkiruka's daughters, claim what is rightfully mine." He underestimated Oluchi's resolve and her legal prowess. As Oluchi prepared her legal case against Obinna and Adaize, she meticulously gathered years of financial records, property deeds, and witness testimonies. She was determined to prove not only the unlawful seizure of her family's assets, but also the mismanagement that had led to their significant depreciation. The case quickly became a legal spectacle in Lagos, attracting media attention and public scrutiny. Oluchi, composed and articulate, faced off against a series of high-priced lawyers hired by Obinna. The courtroom dramas were intense, with each session revealing more of the deceit and manipulation used by Obinna to secure his control over Chike's estate. Despite numerous attempts by Obinna's legal team to delay proceedings and muddy the facts, Oluchi's preparation and sharp legal acumen kept the case moving forward. The process stretched over months, each court appearance more contentious than the last. Obinna, growing increasingly desperate, resorted to underhanded tactics, including attempts to bribe witnesses and intimidate Oluchi's legal team. As the case dragged on, public sentiment began to shift. The community, initially divided, started rallying behind Oluchi, moved by her determination and integrity. Key witnesses, once hesitant to speak out against Obinna, came forward, bolstered by Oluchi's bravery and the growing community support. A breakthrough came when a former employee of Chike's company testified, providing detailed accounts and documents that directly contradicted Obinna's claims about the acquisition of the properties. This testimony was pivotal, swinging the momentum firmly in Oluchi's favor. After nearly a year of legal wrangling, the judge delivered a thorough and decisive verdict. The judgment was in favor of Oluchi and her family, citing overwhelming evidence of Obinna's illegal actions and the rightful ownership of the properties by Chike's heirs. Obinna and his family were given 60 days to vacate all properties, a period during which they were under close scrutiny to prevent any further damage or theft of assets. The court also appointed a monitor to oversee the transition, ensuring compliance with all legal directives. The deadline set by the court came and went, but Obinna, stubborn and disbelieving, refused to vacate the properties. Oluchi, committed to enforcing her family's rights, took decisive action. She enlisted the help of military enforcement to ensure the court's orders were carried out. On the day of the eviction, Obinna and his family were forcibly removed from the premises. Adaeze, Obinna, and their sons were seen being escorted out by the military personnel, their protests and shouts echoing through the neighborhood. Oluchi supervised the eviction, ensuring that everything was conducted legally and without unnecessary harm. Once the properties were secured, Oluchi changed all the locks and took formal possession of her family's estate. The sight of her standing firmly in front of her childhood home, now rightfully hers again, was a powerful symbol of justice and reclamation. With the properties back under her family's control, Oluchi took steps to restore them to their former glory. She renovated her childhood home, turning it into both a residence for her mother and a community center dedicated to education and legal aid for those facing similar issues of property and inheritance. Nkiruka, witnessing her daughter's triumph, felt a profound sense of pride and closure. She continued to expand her tailoring business, now secure in the knowledge that her struggles and the injustices they had endured were acknowledged and rectified. The community rallied around Nkiruka and Oluchi, their respect for the family deepened by the courage and integrity they displayed. The story of their fight for justice spread, inspiring others to stand up against corruption and exploitation. As the harsh reality of their eviction and the seizure of their accounts set in, Adaeze and Obinna faced a grim future. Their lavish lifestyle had evaporated overnight, and they were left scrambling to salvage whatever dignity and assets they could. The two remaining sons, Emeka and Chidi, balked at the idea of returning to the village. their pride wounded by the public disgrace. Adaeze, too, was aghast at the thought of returning to village life. What will people say about Adaeze, the woman who once hosted grand parties in Lagos? Now retreating to the village, she lamented. However, Obina, ever the schemer, reminded her that they still had properties in the village, assets that had been untouched by the legal battles in Lagos. Clinging to this last thread of hope, they sold some of their remaining expensive clothing to fund their journey back to the village upon their arrival. They were greeted with a mixture of curiosity and veiled schadenfreude. The villagers had heard rumors of their downfall, but were outwardly polite, curious about the sudden return of the family. Adaeze and Obina put on a brave front, spinning tales of choosing to leave the noisy city for the peaceful village life, claiming they had managers handling their vast properties in Lagos. The next morning, filled with a renewed, albeit desperate, sense of purpose, Adaeze and Obina set out to inspect Chiki's remaining properties in the east, planning to liquidate some to sustain their lifestyle. However, upon arrival, they were met with a sight that crushed any remaining hopes. The properties were under military guard, having been renovated and rented out. Oluchi had taken no chances, ensuring that all of Chike's assets were secured and contributing to the community, rather than lying fallow under Obina's mismanagement. Devastated and defeated, Adaeze and Obina returned to their old village home, their grandeur stripped away, leaving them nothing but the bare walls of reality. They shared the grim news with Emeka and Chidi, who were equally crushed but maintained a facade of indifference in public. As days turned into weeks, the stark truth of their financial ruin became apparent as the harsh truth settled in. Emeka and Chidi reverted to their old ways, squandering what little resources they had on fleeting relationships with village women. Their irresponsible behavior soon led to several young women in the village becoming pregnant initially. The village community, swayed by old loyalties and the family's storied past, extended a modicum of sympathy and respect towards them. However, as it became clear that the brothers could offer nothing but empty promises, public opinion shifted dramatically when the truth about their penniless state and the absence of any real prospects became widely known. The village's attitude turned hostile. The brothers, once viewed as affluent young men from Lagos, were now scorned as deceitful burdens. The final blow to their crumbling esteem came when it was revealed that they had no means to support the children they had fathered. The village collectively turned its back on the family, labeling Emeka and Chidi as poor village champions, a stark contrast to the potential they once had. Reduced to their lowest, they were unable to continue their manipulations and faced daily reminder of their failures. Forced by circumstance, Obina and Adaeze took up farming, a profession they had once deemed beneath them. Their days of attending socialized gatherings were replaced by long hours in the fields, their hands calloused from the toil. The earth was unforgiving, and their initial attempts at farming were pitiful, yielding little produce. The transition was brutal. Adaeze, who had once prided herself on her manicured appearance, now trudged through mud and dirt. Obina, who had never valued the hard work of others, now found himself at the mercy of the very earth he had once owned. Their spirits broken, spent their remaining days toiling in the fields. They had learned the hardest of life's lessons, that respect and security cannot be stolen but must be earned, and that the consequences of one's choices are ultimately unavoidable. Word of Nkiruka's and her daughter's remarkable success spread far beyond the bustling streets of Lagos, eventually reaching the rustic pathways of Umuagu, their ancestral village. The tales of their achievements and the impactful legacies they were building captivated the villagers, who had only heard fragmented stories of their initial struggles and subsequent rise. Among those most touched by these stories were the Umu-Na, the kinsmen who had once turned their backs on Nkiruka and her daughters, dismissing their potential simply because they were not sons. The elders, now elderly and reflecting on their past actions, felt a deep sense of regret for their harsh treatment of Nkiruka's family. The cultural tide within the village had begun to shift, influenced by the broader societal changes and the glaring contrast between Nkiruka's success and the downfall of Adaeze and Obinna. With humility, the Umu-Ena convened and decided to formally invite Nkiruka and her daughters back to the village to offer a public apology. It was a gesture meant not only to atone for their past misdeeds, but also to restore harmony within the community. Nkiruka, wise and forgiving, accepted their invitation, seeing it as an opportunity to heal old wounds and foster new beginnings. At the gathering, the entire village came out, eager to witness the reconciliation. The Umona, the kinsmen, dressed in traditional attire, publicly apologized to Nkiruka and her daughters, acknowledging their mistakes and praising the women for their resilience and contributions to society. The ceremony was profound, marked by emotional speeches, traditional music, and a communal feast inspired by the warm reception and the genuine remorse expressed by their kinsmen. Adaobi, Oluchi, and Ifeoma decided to extend their efforts to empower the women of Umuagu. They launched initiatives focused on education and economic development, specifically tailored for the women of their hometown. These programs included scholarships for girls, vocational training for women, and grants for female entrepreneurs. Their initiatives were met with enthusiastic participation, transforming the lives of many women in the village, who for the first time saw opportunities that went beyond the traditional roles they had been confined to. The success of these programs further cemented the status of Nkiruka and her daughters as agents of change, not just in urban settings, but in their rural roots as well. As the sun set over the horizon, casting a golden glow over Umuagu, Nkiruka stood beside her daughters, watching the village that had once cast them aside, now celebrating their achievements and embracing the changes they brought. It was a poignant moment of redemption and fulfillment. The story of Nkeruka and her daughters became a beacon of hope and a lesson to all that the value of a child, son or daughter, lies not in their gender, but in their potential to contribute to society. Their journey underscored the importance of giving every child, regardless of gender, the opportunity to grow, learn, and thrive. The moral of their story resonated far beyond the village of Umuagu. Female children are equally important as male children, and no one should be treated as an outcast simply because they are born a woman. In honoring this truth, the village found not only reconciliation, but also a path forward, guided by the principles of equality, respect, and communal support. The legacy of Nkiruka and her daughters lived on, a timeless reminder of the strength found in forgiveness and the power of education to change not just individual lives, but entire communities. Enjoying this story? Subscribe for more and hit the like button to support our channel.